Welcome to the second edition of the Nichols College Athletics Podcast, which from this point forward will be known as Have You Heard? On today's podcast, which we're taping on Tuesday, October 15th, will be Nichols men's and women's volleyball head coach John Post, followed by members of the Nichols College football team and the women's soccer program. Hope you enjoy it. First up is head coach John Post. Welcome to the second installment of the Nichols College Athletics Podcast, which has now been named Have You Heard? Joining us on this week's podcast is Nichols men's and women's volleyball head coach John Post. John, how's it going today?
It's going great. Thanks for having me here, Pete.
Good. Let's jump right into it. You're right in the middle of the women's season now. You guys have have 10 wins, which is already a program record. Just talk about the season so far. What goals have you already met? What goals are still to come?
Yeah, we at the offset of the season, we talked about two things specifically: getting better every single day and setting a program record for wins. And the getting better every day is a tough measurement. We go about our daily routines and everything and work to get better, and increase our hitting percentage, increase our passing rating, increasing our serving rating. And it's all these little things, all these little details that go into making teams better, and I think that's shown in our ability to win matches this year. And that touches on our second goal, which was to win the most matches in program history. We have 5 left, and we're already at 10, which is a fantastic feat for the team and the program as a whole.
Still looking for that elusive first conference win. You were close last week against Western New England, really one of the closest 3-set matches I've ever seen. Not to say talk about that match, but just what kind of confidence that give you? Whereas last year that match was 25-8, 25-7. To this one, where just every match was 25-22, 28-26. They were very close.
Yeah, the CCC is a really tough volleyball conference. It's a tough athletic conference as a whole, and we're working to get to that level where we're competing in matches, and not just competing, but to win a match. We haven't done that yet in the program history, and so that's that last goal that we're trying to achieve going forward. But it's good to see where we're at. We've been in every single match so far in conference. We went up to UNE. Really strong team there. They're 12-2, 13-2 when we played them, undefeated in conference, and we went forward with them. Had a chance to win that match, it's good to see that we're at that level right now. And I think that next step is just getting over the hump and winning a match.
And before we talk about the newcomers on the team and whatnot, how has this season been different than last season, preseason, during the season, now in your second season with the program? How much different has it been for you than last year?
There's a little more of a comfort level and an understanding level coming in this year. The team knew what to expect from me. I knew what to expect from them. It was the transitions into preseason were a lot smoother. And I think that's helped a lot. I think that continuity has helped the program grow on a weekly and daily basis.
John, you just spoke about the continuity with the student athletes. This was a program that had gone through 3 coaches in 3 years, you being that third coach. This is the first time this team has had the coach come back for the second year. How much easier has that made things for you, them knowing the expectations that you have, the system that you want to run? Just how different was it from that year to now?
We were able to instill our system last year and what we're doing defensively and offensively, and that allowed us to spend more time on skill-specific stuff and competition-based stuff during our preseason this year, which really got us off the ground running and put us in a good spot heading into the season.
Sure. And you've had some freshmen and sophomores playing some key minutes for you. Jalen Fegan got some big minutes for you guys last year at the outside. She's a sophomore now. But you've really had 3 freshmen come in and make a pretty big impact. Sharday Sanders, Allison Tuxbury, and Madison Parati. Talk about each of those and just what they've done in their development so far.
Yeah, Allison came in. That's kind of a special case for me because when I coached high school volleyball, her freshman and sophomore year, she played for me. So I kind of had that connection with her coming in. I knew what kind of athlete we were getting. She's just a competitor. She's a hard worker. She goes about her business, and she's always even-keeled no matter what's going on around her. Madison is someone who's got a multitude of talents. She's a strong defender, a good passer. She can attack the ball well. She started off the season as the outside for us, and then switched into the libero role, which has really solidified our lineup lately. And then Charday's a tremendous athlete. She's coming off a shoulder surgery last fall at the end of her high school season, and so slowly worked her back in. But we have 5 matches left in the season, and Char's already set the program record for blocks in a single season. She's a dynamic offensive option for us, and I think the 3 of them have really done a great job. And I don't want to not talk about Abby Mayeri as well, who's stepped into the starting lineup in the last couple matches and really helped out our defense and our serving. We have 4 freshmen this year, and all 4 of them are contributing at a high level for us, which has really strengthened the program.
And something I spoke about on the first podcast was just about now being in the position where these student athletes aren't playing out of position. Last year, Jaylene was mostly an outside. She's better fit for libero. And recently, she's gone back to the outside. But the versatility you've had, having student athletes that can do that, but also being able to put kids in a position where passing is the key. And we've talked about Rachel in the past, who just having that person in the middle who is a passer first and not a second or third. Yeah. Just, I guess, being able to have student athletes to play. They're versatile, but at the same time, putting them in the right position, not, well, she passed her freshman year of high school, so we're going to have her in the middle now.
Yeah, I think that's been a real key for us. Being able to play off their strengths has allowed us to strengthen our program. And on a match day, being able to have outsides that can pass and put balls away on the pin, have middles like Shar and Meg Gardner, a senior who is the epitome of that versatility that you talk about. She in this program, she's played outside, she's played right side, she's played middle, and her sacrifices have allowed us to put the best product on the court on a nightly basis. And so those players playing in their key positions has really helped us a lot.
Sure. Now, as I mentioned earlier, John is also the coach of the men's team as well. The men's team just finished their first season of varsity competition, won 17 matches, went to the semifinals of the NECC tournament. Do you think there was some good-spirited camaraderie between the men's and women's programs? It's just the women watched the men, because the men come to the women's matches and vice versa, they sat there and watched the men go out there and win 17 matches, that there was a little drive and a little fire inside of them. Say, all right, you know what? You guys raised the bar for the programs in general. Now we want to come out and best the win total we had last year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. One of the really cool things about the situation that we're in is that the men come and support the women, like you said, and the women go and support the men at all their matches, and to be able to see the success that the men had in the spring, I think that lit a little bit of a fire under the women's team coming into this year. You could see the level of competition and the desire to compete for starting positions and playing time has really increased, and I think a small part of that is the success that the men had in the spring.
Sure. And just talk about even off the court. I'm not sure. I may put you on the spot with this. Did the teams spend some time together? Did they practice in non-traditionals with each other? I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, no, they don't do the non-traditionals together, but they do. We talk a lot between both teams. It's one program and two teams, and there's a lot of just helping out. Whether it's shagging balls or being there to support each other on and off the court. I think that there's been a ton of camaraderie between the two teams, and it's really cool to see. As the leader of both teams, the head of both teams, it's good to see that they're getting along and that they support each other so well.
Sure. And talk about, I guess there's pros and cons to coaching both teams. I imagine at times it's challenging trying to recruit for 2 different teams, but just how much fun it is to have a hand in both and to really just be able to really run both of them.
Yeah, volleyball has been my life for a really long time, and to be able to run both programs and to build both programs from where I started here has been just so much fun for me, and to see the growth in such a short amount of time is really cool, and it's a testament to our student athletes here at Nichols, the time that they're putting in and the effort and everything that they put in both on the court and in the classroom to be successful has been really cool and really fun for me to be a part of.
Yeah. And we'll talk briefly about your career as a student athlete. You went to East Stroudsburg, graduated in 2009, 4-year student athlete on the men's volleyball team there. Talk about that experience. Has it helped you as a coach at all? And anything really memorable that stands out from your time as a student athlete?
Yeah, it was an awesome experience for me. One thing that stands out to this day, you know, I have a group chat going with 10 of my teammates from ESU. And we talk literally on a daily basis, and it's great to still have that as such a big part of my life. And as a student athlete, and now a coach, I'm able to pull on some of my experiences. You know, I came in as a recruit and someone who had been successful at the high school and club level, and then had to kind of take a back seat when I got there. The Adam Holderidge was the starting setter when I got to ESU, and he set program records in every conceivable form as a setter. And I had to take a back seat to that. And it was the first time in my life, in my athletic career, where I wasn't the guy. And, you know, now as a coach, I can draw on that. And when we have players who are good and they're talented, but they're not seeing as much court time as they might hope, I can draw on those experiences myself and have those conversations with them. And I think that's helped a lot. And, you know, just being able to play college volleyball was such a tremendous experience. I got to play men's volleyball at the D1 and D2 level, is competed for the same national championship. So we were in the same conference as Penn State and Harvard and Princeton. And so I got to play against guys that are playing in the Olympics now. Matt Anderson is probably one of the best players in the world, and I got to play against him when he was at Penn State. And that's really cool. That's a really cool opportunity for me. And I had a blast doing it.
Was there some point during your college career, or just when you graduated, when you knew you wanted to be a coach? Was it something you always knew you wanted to do, or something came a little bit later?
Yeah, so I finished my eligibility in 2008, but I still had credits left to graduate in 2009. And so I helped out with the team. A lot of them were my friends, some of the guys in the group chat that we talked about earlier. But that was more to stay around volleyball, and I didn't have an inclination at that point that I wanted to coach. I actually, when I went home after I graduated, my high school, Xavier High School, where I graduated from, reached out. They were looking for an assistant boys volleyball coach, and I jumped at that opportunity. You know, here's 3 months. I'll give back to my high school, and then I'll go my own separate way. And that was in 2010, and it's now 9 years later. I'm sitting here talking to you about my coaching career.
How did you end up at Nichols? How was that process?
You know, I was a high school boys and girls volleyball coach, as well as a club travel team coach for almost 8 years, coaching 4 teams a year. And I think I reached a point where my wife and I sat down, and I think I was ready for a new challenge in my career. And it just so happened that Peter Menegia, who was the head coach at Nichols prior to me being hired, I had coached his daughter a couple years prior to Pete coming to Nichols. And so we had developed a relationship, and we touched base from time to time. And when he decided that he was going to retire, he reached out to me and thought that it'd be a good opportunity for me to take that next step in my career. And so I looked into Nichols. I took a look at the roster and the schedule, and had conversations with Pete on a weekly basis about what it would look like being here. And so when it came down to time to apply, I sat down with my wife. We knew it would be a big sacrifice in terms of time and energy. But when I got to Nichols on my interview day, it just felt like home. It felt like the right place for me to be, and that next step in my career. And I couldn't be happier with the decision that I made to accept the job. But more importantly, the opportunity that Chris Colvin and the athletic department here gave me in terms of running both the men's and women's volleyball program here at Nichols.
What was your biggest challenge or adjustment from the club level, the high school level, to coming into the collegiate level? Was there a big learning curve for you? And it's not always on the court. A lot of times it's off the court.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning curve, you know, 8 years of coaching high school and club, the recruiting aspect isn't really there. I worked with student athletes in their recruiting process and finding the right college fit for them. But you can't recruit in high school. You can't recruit for club. So that was the biggest learning curve. And I got lucky here where I had, Scott Foucher last year, his office was right next to mine, and be able to have conversations with him on a daily basis about recruiting and what worked for him and what didn't. Paul Brower up the hill. Recruiting is so important to the tennis programs and to every program here. But Paul's been a real mentor for me in terms of figuring out what works with recruiting. And so that was the biggest learning curve for me, is figuring out what my style of recruiting is and the players I wanted to go after.
What have you kind of learned about yourself in terms of the student athlete that you want to recruit to Nichols College?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we did a really good job identifying that in both classes for the men and the women here. We want players that love volleyball. We want people that want to be in the gym and that want to work hard and want to compete, and that are about the team first. And those are the type of athletes that I think can be successful at this level. There's numerous athletes that can play their sport, but the special ones are the ones that love it and want to be there every single day and want to learn every single day and don't settle for wherever they're at. And I think those are the athletes that we try to target here for both the men's and the women's team.
They talk about rookies in the NFL or in the NBA having that, welcome to the league moment. Yeah. Did you have a welcome to college coaching moment, whether it was on the court, off the court, maybe there was a starting lineup gaffe or a play or something where okay, this is college level, or maybe it didn't happen?
I don't know if I had that welcome to the moment. Welcome to college moment. I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest change outside of recruiting coming in, was just being on campus every day and being involved in the student athletes' lives and seeing them grow. I mean, I've only been here since April 2018, and from that point to where we are now, just seeing the growth in the student athletes that I've worked with, and even some of the student athletes that don't play volleyball but are here and in the gym and in the rec center every single day.
President Omar is one of your biggest fans.
It's fantastic seeing the support from both the administration here in athletics, but also up the hill with the president's office. It's fantastic to see that. I think that's one of the things that makes Nichols so special, is the total involvement of the campus community.
You mentioned, I believe there's 5 matches left in the regular season, possible postseason after that. What are you looking for down the stretch these last couple matches?
We talked at the beginning about getting better every day, and that's the biggest thing for us is going into these matches and continuing to be competitive, and I think with the freshmen and sophomores specifically learning how to win and finishing out matches. I think that's our biggest goal going through these last 5 matches.
Sure. And then as women's season winds down, the men begin to crank it up again. Really, in January is when they start to go at it. Did they exceed expectations in your own mind that first season, winning 17? And has it changed maybe your timeline or just your expectations for this next year?
That's a good question, Pete. I think our expectations last year were to come in and compete and just do the best that we could. We had a short amount of time to put a roster together, and we weren't entirely sure what we were going to be able to do with that. I got really lucky getting a full season out of my assistant coach last year, Casey Fitzpatrick. He came in and did a really good job with our passers and our liberos in terms of their passing and defense, which really strengthened our team. It was a big hole for us during the non-traditional fall season. And so I don't know if we but to your point, I don't know if we exceeded expectations as much as we raised the bar for the future, and I think that goes into this season, taking that next step. Elms and Endicott are at a tier. They're nationally ranked teams, and they have been for the last number of years in the men's volleyball scene, and so we want to get up into that tier. And that started day one of our non-traditional season this year, and that'll lead right up into the end of the season and the conference tournament next year. For us to take that next step, we got to knock them off, and those are going to be tough matches. They're great programs, led by great coaches with great athletes, but that's the level we want to be at, and that's the goal we're pushing for.
How exciting is it going into the season knowing that everybody from last year's team is back? A lot of underclassmen. I believe there's 2 seniors on the team, a grad student and a senior, and then mixing a couple of freshmen. Just Does that just get you right? You want to go right now, like you just want to get right back into it, knowing all those kids back with a year under their belt.
Yeah, no, we just had our play day on Sunday. We had UConn and Central Connecticut come in, and I think having everyone back is fantastic. But the new blood, the freshmen coming in and bringing that new energy and depth. We're going to be deep this year at every single position, which we couldn't say last year. So we can deal with the little injuries that come and little issues that come throughout the length of an entire season. But yeah, having everybody back and that infusion of young energy and talent is really exciting, and really looking forward to January coming around and those first matches coming up. I think we play Emerson on January 23rd, a home match, so that's our first match of the year. I'm really looking forward to that.
And we're taping this on Tuesday, October 15th. The women are back in action tomorrow down at Roger Williams in Bristol, Rhode Island. We want to thank John for joining us. John, it's always great to talk to you. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Pete. It was great being here, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Have You Heard? Joining us for the second edition of the podcast is Nichols quarterback Mike Pina, women's soccer student athlete Nicole Gidley. We're joined by Tyler Gaudette and also Jake Alpert, who is a student worker at many athletic events. The last podcast we did was right before homecoming weekend. What we didn't talk about since then was the big homecoming win over Salve Regina. It snapped a 9-game losing streak to the Seahawks, 25-15. Mike, just talk about that contest.
Yeah, that game was a lot of fun. It was, like you said, it snapped that 9-game losing streak against Salve, and it was really great to be able to win against Salve in that atmosphere with all the alumni, all the students at the game. It was a really great win for the program, a great win for the school.
This was a Team 2 in Salve Regina that came in averaging almost 43 points a game in the last 8 contests against Nichols. So the expectations may not have been tremendously high as far as the alumni goes. They're used to seeing Salve come in and kind of put a beat down on the Bison, to be quite honest about it. So just how rewarding was that to go in there? And this is a team, again, you lost to last year. And it'd been a little while, I think 2 years since we'd won on homecoming. So does that get the team a little more amped up with just the fans and the alumni and the tailgate?
Oh yeah, for sure. Winning that game, it definitely proved a lot of people wrong. Proved to alumni that we can play. Proved really to the rest of the conference, the rest of New England, that this Nichols football team can play.
Tyler, you were a student here. You obviously worked a lot of homecomings, but I'm sure you enjoyed your share of homecomings as well. What does it mean when the football team comes out and plays well on homecoming? Just how much does that kind of spark the community and spark the campus?
I feel like it's a really good thing for campus, for the football team, because they draw such a big crowd all the time. So, like you said, not many people had really high expectations for the team coming into this game, but when they come in and they play like they did, it really sparks the campus, and the campus goes, wow, like this team can play, like and then when our teams are winning, obviously Nichols has a history of like when our teams are winning, the students come up and they show up and they support, and it's really good for the school. And like I said, I went here, and throughout the years, if the numbers don't lie, the football team really hasn't been that great, but the last couple of years they've been coming around that corner, and they've been getting a lot better, and there was a statement win this past homecoming against Salve.
It's the second straight season the football team started off 3-2. Nicole, you guys also got off to a great start. We're going to go back and forth here between the women's soccer team and the football team on the podcast. Nicole, you guys are off to a 10-5 start. At one point, you were 9-2, which was the best start since 2001. What do you think's been the biggest difference this year, coming off last year where you guys had 4 wins?
I think our freshmen came in with a new mentality that we haven't really seen on our team in a while. They're fired up. They want to play. Me and Meg Dunn are the only seniors on our team, and I think we kind of play with the aspect of leading by example, and I think we've all just come together as a group and want to prove the CCC that we're a team that compete this year.
Was there some point during the season, you guys, again, were off to the 9-2 start, where you started to have that moment where it's just like, we can be really good here? Like, do you sense a difference in the confidence level from last year to this year?
Definitely. I mean, as you know, we've had some troubled seasons in the past, and when you keep losing, I think team morale goes down a bit, and this year I just think everyone has that positive energy, like we can do this, which has been awesome. Sure.
And Jake, as a student here now currently, what have you seen from both teams, and what kind of just, I guess, around campus, is there a different vibe with just the teams in the fall doing well? Tyler talked about it a little bit, but just you're currently here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, starting with women's soccer, I mean, I'm pretty much at all the games, and it's night and day. the talent was always there. I don't think that was ever the problem. I think it was just kind of the culture and the mentality, especially this year. And one point I think is really important that Nicole touched on was kind of the freshmen coming in and making an impact right away. Obviously, you have Nicole and Meg Dunner graduating. Those would be big losses. But after that, you have everybody else coming back. So I think them with their leadership and the sophomores coming back and doing well, and we got a few juniors too. So I think the team's set up for success down the road as well.
Sure. And going back to Nicole, your sister obviously went here.
Yes.
I'm sure she had some hand in recruiting here, but just how much has the program changed since she was here? You've obviously had a coaching change while you were here, but just from even when you watched your sister play to now, what do you think is the biggest difference?
I think, again, kind of what Jake said, it's team culture. I think every girl on this team is committed to each other and proving the program can be successful this year. And I think Coach Karen's done a great job with that, really making sure she's bringing in recruits that want to be a part of the team and buy into the program.
Sure. And of course, we're speaking about head coach Karen Gernon, who's in her third season at Nichols. She's a graduate of UConn and played at the Big East at a pretty high level. She's done a great job bringing in some student athletes here to compete and to win. So recently, you guys have hit a little bit of a slump. You've lost the last two matches, a late loss at Endicott, and an overtime loss yesterday. Not to harp on bad things by means, but just what would be the mentality of that team last year as opposed to now where, you know, is it easier to shake these losses off or look at positives, whereas maybe in years past it was just, you know, you get down or you have a loss like that and it just can really send you home deflated?
I think we've just been able to fight through every game, where in years past I think we would have almost given up. Even yesterday we lost in double overtime, which was a tough game, but we just kept fighting back. And Endicott, I mean, we've never been that close with Endicott in all the years I've been here and my sister. So that was really exciting. I think we've been able to find positives in every game, which has been great.
Sure. And for the fans who are not sure, this past weekend the women's soccer team lost a heartbreaker up at Endicott, held a 1-0 lead. Endicott scored late in the second to tie it and then was awarded a penalty kick late with less than a minute left to go ahead for the win. So heartbreaking one for the Bison for sure, but still off to a 10-5 start, one of the best in a long time. And we talked about the improvement of the women's soccer team. Mike, with the football program, again, it's the second season being 3-2, but this last outing up at Western New England, it was, I believe, 30-19 loss. But at the same time, that's a lot closer than years past. I think last year was a 30-point contest, and you definitely had opportunities to win that game. Just talk about the improvement that you see and the positives you take away, even out of a loss like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a tough loss, but at the same time, like you said, there are a lot of positives that came from it. You know, Western New England, they're the 4-peat team right now, so to be able to play with them that closely definitely showed a lot. And the best thing about that game, kind of like how Nicole was saying about the women's soccer team, how we never quit during that game. We always kept fighting. We were fighting to the end. Even towards the end of the game, we got to the 3-yard line. We couldn't get in from there. So that would have made it even closer. Would have made it a little more exciting. But that was I think that just shows a lot about our team. We didn't quit till the end.
You know, and that's something I wanted to bring up was, you know, not quitting to the end, especially with women's soccer this year. Like, there's a lot of, even with, like, late losses to Wentworth and Endicott, like, in what you guys did against Western New England football, there's so many positive takeaways from both of these seasons that both teams are on the right track. So, like, you know, like I said, like, with football, I was thinking about on the way in today, you know, you guys are, like, literally, like, you guys are a couple yards and maybe even a couple inches away from being 5-0 on the year. You know, like,
right.
You guys were right there. And in women's soccer, you know, last couple years, you know, throughout conference play, you know, you might play well in non-conference play, but then comes conference and, you know, it's not good. But, like, you know, the last 3 conference games you guys have played have been 1-goal games. So, like, you guys, you know, both teams are right there, come around the corner. So, a lot of positives from both these seasons.
Sure. And we'll talk about women's soccer a little bit now. Just a couple of quick stats from the last year to this year. Last year, the team scored 19 goals the whole season. This year, they're already at 34, so they've nearly doubled the total. And defensively, given up 2.08 goals against last year, this year down to 1.25. So you've almost shaved a goal off the goals against, and you've doubled the offensive output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's been really exciting. We're only a squad of 17 girls, which is really small. But again, I think it just shows that this team's got a lot of heart and grit, which we keep harping on.
Yeah. And so Mike and Nicole, you both kind of have different paths as how you got to Nichols here. Nicole, we mentioned your sister was here. Mike, you started out at Mount Ida. And obviously listeners know what happened at Mount Ida, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But for you, how did you end up at Mount Ida? Where else were you recruited, and what was your decision to end up there?
So actually, I started off at Western New England. I was there my freshman year, first semester, and then not everything went the way I wanted it to there. So I ended up switching to Mount Ida for the second semester, and then I was at Mount Ida for a year and a half until it closed.
Sure. And how did you end up, I guess, from Western? Did you go in there as a quarterback, and you look at the roster size, they're traditionally 120, 130, 140 deep. Did you look at the depth chart at one point and just say, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to get my crack anytime soon here?
Yeah, that was part of it. My freshman year, we had 130 guys there. We had 7 quarterbacks, four in my class alone, and I was like I was one of the better athletes in the group, and they wanted to actually switch my position to safety, but I didn't want to do that. Like, I came to college to play quarterback. I've been working to play quarterback my whole life, so I wanted to keep playing quarterback. I wanted to keep that dream alive to be able to play quarterback at the college level, and Mount Ida was a great opportunity for that. I was actually looking there out of high school originally. The head coach, Michael Anders, he was a family friend of ours for a long time, so that was a big part of how I ended up there.
Sure. And you ended up 2017, you ended up starting a lot of games. You threw for 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden, there's no more football team. There's no more school. How did that news break to you, and what was your reaction? And then when did you finally say, all right, what's the next step for me?
Yeah, that was really tough. We were coming off a 4-6 year at Mount Ida, and we were hoping to come back and win the conference the next year. And we were all working really hard to get there. And they didn't tell us the school was closing until April, so it was pretty late in the process at that point. So pretty much everyone was scrambling at that point in the year, because schools have already decided who they're bringing in for sports and just like the overall school in general. So everyone was scrambling, but Nichols did a great job of helping Mount Ida students make the transition very smooth. A lot of us came on tours here and everything like that, and there's a lot of similarities between the two schools, and it just, for a lot of us, it was a perfect fit.
How much did it help having several of your teammates come in with you?
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. I think there was 8 of us that came over together, so that was definitely huge. I also played in high school with Princewell, so that was big having him here. And then I went to Western New England with Shane, so I had a lot of familiarity here, so that was nice. And then coming in over the summer that year, I would come and meet some of the guys, work out with them, so that was good.
Sure. So that's how you landed at Nichols. Nicole, did you really have a choice? Did your sister drag you here?
She didn't. I kept coming on visits to see her, and the more I came, I just knew it was the school for me.
Sure. And what's your major here? Was that one of the draws as well?
Yes, I'm a marketing major.
Okay. Excellent. So you said, we'll go back to Mike real quick here. So your first training camp now, you come in, were you right away like, I'm going to win this starting job? There's no doubt in my mind. What was the competition like and just the adjustment?
I knew coming in there was going to be a competition. I think when we first came to camp, there was about 8 quarterbacks. And
well, I mean, there were 7 at Western, so
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
like, geez, what did I do to myself?
Even in high school, I come from a very competitive high school, and I was always competing to get on the field there. So it was nothing new coming here, competing with 8 different quarterbacks. So I knew what I had to do. I just had to keep my head down, keep working. And ultimately, it came down to me and another quarterback, Chauncey, and I ended up winning the job, but I had to battle out with him, and I was able to win it in the end.
Sure. Can you talk about maybe just the biggest differences between not just the schools themselves, but just the programs, if there's anything that really stands out to you, positive, negative?
Program like between here and Mount Ida?
Or even Western, whichever one you want to throw in there. Put you on the spot.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. They're all unique in their own way. That's tough. I'm trying to think.
We can give you a sec to think about that one if you want. Not to stump you here. Nicole, we talked about Mike and switching school differences. You came in as a freshman with a different coach than Karen. What was kind of the mentality of the team when the coaching switch happened, system changes, and just how was that adjustment process?
I think we had great leaders on the team at that time. So even when we didn't have a coach, we were kind of in that in-between period. I think we stuck together as a team, which was really important. But when Karen came over, she made a great Swift right into it. She knew she couldn't come in and try to change the whole program right in that second. It's been a gradual process for us. And I think each year we've just gotten better and better.
Sure. And you're obviously someone who you played in every match in your career. Is this something you take pride in, that your health and you're always out there and you're reliable for the team?
Yeah, I do. I love being out there.
do you guys, either of you here during your time in Nichols, do you have a favorite game or a favorite moment or a famous play that you just that jumps out in your head there? Obviously, this past weekend or 2 weeks ago, homecoming had to be something special for you.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that was my favorite game here so far. That was definitely a lot of fun.
Sure. Nicole, how about you? Anything kind of stand out to you in that sense?
I love freshman year playing next to my sister. That's probably something I'll never forget. But this group of girls this year, my senior year, has been a lot of fun.
Jake, obviously the basketball team has provided a bunch of moments the last couple of years for you, but as a student now, is there something that stands out for you, either women's soccer or football game or anything in general?
I mean, women's soccer this year in particular, it's just, like I said earlier, it's just night and day from last year. Again, the talent's always been there, but it's just that culture, and you can just tell from the outside looking in, even if you don't know any of the players personally, you can tell that they're a tight-knit group, and I think team chemistry off the field is extremely important and definitely ties in on the field. Obviously, you still have to go out and perform, but that's something that they do second nature, so it's definitely nice to see their growth, especially from the last couple of years. And then football this year, just the culture, and the culture with the freshmen coming in. You see the freshmen coming in, you kind of know who's coming in like July, August. You see the returners from the last couple of years, and just the motivation that you can just tell there's a fire under them to get in the gym and get stronger and get on the field and improve their skills and really improve that team camaraderie. And it's showing this year, even those losses, like you said, Coast Guard, that's an extremely challenging team. They came up last year, and that was still a tough game. Lost by 1 point. This year, Western New England, the last couple of years at Western New England, we got blown out. And as Mike was saying, like the give up, like I don't think the team, it's more like not give up, but it's kind of, you understand the situation, and it's tough to come back. But this year, like watching the game, they're still in it the whole time. It felt, you almost looked at the score and it's like, wow, it's only 30-19. As Tyler was saying, a few plays that could have gone the other way, could have been a lot different results. So
sure,
it's just been pleasant to see. It's always just never give up and have that battle mentality to the very end.
Mike and Nicole, did you guys set any personal goals coming into the year? And obviously, there's always team goals. But have those since changed, especially for women's soccer, again, with 10 wins already? Have your goals changed along the way, or maybe they were set very high to begin with?
I mean, I think I always want to come in with high goals, but I think this year during preseason, you could kind of see that we could reach those goals this year. So obviously right now, we would love to make it to playoffs. I've never made it to playoffs in my past 3 years here. So that's my goal right now, to make it to playoffs.
Sure. And Mike, you guys too, again, we talked, you're sitting at 3-2 for the second year in a row, but it seems like there's a different feel with this team. And again, some of that definitely comes from the last two games, the Salve and the Western game. But have your goals changed at all, personally or for the team, or is it you guys right on par right now?
I would say we're right on par. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we all set out to reach the postseason. Even if that's not playoffs, we can still make a bowl game. Obviously, we want playoffs, but it'll still be nice to make a bowl game. So, at this point in the year, being 3-2, we need to be able to win our last 5 games in order to have a chance at playoffs. If not, we can have that opportunity for a bowl game. So that would just be a great opportunity for us to make a postseason game.
Sure. And talk about some of the changes you've seen from last year to this year. I spoke personally about the offensive, defensive lines, and I feel like that's where the biggest improvement on the team has been, just giving a quarterback time to protect, getting that push for the running game, and then the defense being able to get in the backfield and stuff the run a little bit. What's the biggest changes that you've seen from last year to this year with this team, biggest improvements?
I would say that, there's a number of factors. Like Nicole and Jake keep talking about is the culture. The culture for football has definitely gotten a lot better. And I think that all started really in January when we were all in the weight room. We were all working together with Coach Bob. Coach Bob has done a great job here. For all the sports teams, he's done an amazing job. And then I would just say our strength conditioning overall is just a lot better. And then also some of the adjustments we've made offensively with our new system that we have. It's not completely different, but I would say it's more efficient. So everyone's been bought into that. Just that's what is buying into the system, and so I think that's really what's been able to help us.
Sure, and you've obviously got some fantastic weapons to throw to. I mean, possibly you have the best 3-man wideout set in the conference in Jake Wood and Tony Marignoli and Hunter Ferreira. And we mentioned Dom Capola and Kevin Diaz off air. Just talk about what they've been, just how much easier it makes your life being able to have guys that can get open and just playmakers for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really amazing to have those five receivers that I can rely on. I don't know if I've ever had that 5 guys that I can really say I can rely on. But all those guys, I can always rely on them to run the right routes, get in the open spot, go up to make a play if I'm in trouble and I just need to throw it up. I know one of them will go make a play for me. I know they'll block for me. They'll block for any of our teammates, and that just goes back to them buying into the system, buying in for each and one of our teammates.
Sure. And when you talk women's soccer with the same situation, you're obviously a defensive player. You've had good goalkeepers over the years, but was there ever a point where, not to sandbag any teams, where just you might give up that first goal to get them 2-0 and you kind of go, geez, I don't know if we can come out of this. I don't know if we have the scores. And now, again, you've doubled the offensive output. Is there a different mentality just on the defensive end that I don't need to be absolutely perfect, and if I'm not, we're going to lose this match?
Yeah, I think it's just the whole team all around, defense, midfield, forwards, just we play for the girl next to us. It's not an individual effort, I think, this year, whereas in the past it's been more individual efforts by teammates, and we just want to work hard for each other. Yeah.
Sure. Tyler, did you want to add anything on either of the teams here?
Yeah, just I wanted to get both your takes, because I feel like the common theme with these seasons is both teams' defenses are playing fantastic all year. So I just Mike, with your defense, keeping you on the field and stuff, and what would you with thoughts on your defense and how great that they've been all season?
And defensive rankings real quickly. They're number 2 against the run in the conference. They're number 2 in interceptions, and they're tied for first in fumble recoveries and second in points allowed. So really, they've done a good job getting you guys back on the field.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. They've been doing an amazing job. And again, the defense, their system is different than last year too. So that's been a huge part. Coach Olmstead, Coach G, they've been doing a great job of mixing things up on defense, being very aggressive, and once again, everyone's bought into it. And they've given our offense a lot of opportunities. So that's been huge for us. That's been huge.
I was gonna say, with soccer, your back line has been amazing. The entire it's crazy. With broadcasting, you see everything and you notice all the little things. The chemistry with you four, and there's always somebody in the right spot. It doesn't matter who you guys know. You guys know where each other are gonna be. Obviously, you're playing on the outside, so you got a lot more space to cover. And you and Hallie on the other side, you guys are always, and Emma, always just locking down and keeping it, and it's making it very challenging for teams to score, working their way back towards the middle, which is never good for them.
And it shows, on the stat sheets too. You guys have played 15 games and you guys have 7 shutouts. So that's just what are your thoughts on how well that your defense has been playing this year?
Honestly, I think we're a pretty solid line. We're really committed to staying organized. But even recently, Lex, who is one of our center backs, she recently had a concussion. Maddie Clark stepped into that role and did a fantastic job. She played in the Endicott game, had the game of her life. Mel Millett sometimes comes back there, and Emma goes to midfield because she's previously was a midfielder. So I think everyone's just committed to staying organized. But again, we can't win games unless we score, and our forwards have been performing too, which has been great.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, you have Emma who's moving back and forth. I noticed Maddie did too. Abby Bassett moves back and forth. So it's just that versatility, and that not only can they go back and forth, but they can perform both roles extremely well. So
right. I think it's just coach tells them what to do, and everyone can buy into that and go out there and do it, which has been great.
And you had a goaltender last year, Brooke Downey, who I believe led the conference in saves. And this year, you almost haven't skipped a beat with Olivia back there. Was there a big transition in camp from maybe relying on Brooke and knowing that she's back there and not knowing what Olivia was because she didn't have any collegiate playing experience, saying we need to tighten up? Was there any talk of that or just an adjustment? Yeah,
I think Liv has done a great job. She went from training with 4 goalkeepers last year to being the only goalkeeper this year. So, that's a lot of pressure on her as a team. Every time she goes down, it's really scary. But she's filled that role great, and I love Brooke. She's awesome. But Liv's done a great job too.
Sure. Lastly, I'll leave you guys with this. Just talk about Tyler's and Jake are here, and they're both former students, and they talk about what it means when the athletic teams succeed on campus. Just talk about the support you get from the faculty, from the staff, from the student body, just what it means to have those home games to look up, not only to be winning, but look up and see a lot of faces in the crowd.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge thing here at Nichols, all the support we get from students, faculty, other sports teams, coaches, and alumni too. The alumni here are great. For football, we have the Bison Club up in what are they called?
In the aerobics
yeah,
room.
in the aerobics room. In the aerobics room. So and then the tailgating area too has some alumni in it and everything. So the sport has been great.
Nicole, do you want to piggyback on that at all? Just the support you get from up campus, especially.
Right. I think we've had a lot more people showing up to our games, and just walking around campus, everyone gives us a pat on the back. It's been great, even from social media, coaches from other teams, and all the students.
Great. Well, the football team's back in action on Saturday. They're going to host Becker at 12 o'clock at Vendetti Field. Women's soccer heads to Bristol, Rhode Island, my current residence in Rhode Island. They're going to take on Roger Williams at 4 o'clock on Friday. Then they're back home next Wednesday against Plymouth State at 3 o'clock. So we want to thank everyone for joining us today, the listeners, my panelists. Again, thanks for tuning in to Have You Heard?